Hello friends, welcome to the third lecture of our ancient Indian history. First of all, 2023 is there again. Let's start this year with some revision of the points as well as some new learning exercises. And you need to really gear up now. Prelims are just around the corner, so very few months are left. So now is the time which you should put a lot of efforts in order to revise the data of all the subjects: history, polity, geography, economy. And I'll be separately making a video which you can see for the purpose of recollecting and how to remember various data of various subjects. Okay, so meanwhile, just to quickly revise, if anyone has not seen the previous videos, they can visit part 1 and part 2 of the ancient history, where we have covered Indus Valley civilization, we have covered Vedantas, Upanishads. We have also covered Buddhist school of thought, the schools of the Buddhist philosophy, various scholars of the and followers of Buddha, then Mahavir Jain and the Jain philosophy and all the related aspects of it. Then further, we have also covered Ajivikas and Charvaka schools of thoughts. Now, all this has been happening, and we are roughly now entered into somewhere around 543 BC. Now we have to move ahead with the formations of the Mahajanpadas, and from here began the ancient dynasties which we have to study. And also, friends, it is very important from here on that there will be very small micro points which you have to remember, क्योंकि बहुत सारे डायनेस्टीज हैं, उनके बहुत सारे राइज फॉल इंटर वॉर्स हैं जो आपको ध्यान में रखना है. So we'll go through it through the maps and through the timeline so that you are able to at least form a rough picture in your head. And ये डेटा को आप बार बार रिवाइज करिए. मैं ये नहीं कहता कि ये इन्फॉर्मेशन पूरा है, बट यस, ये इन्फॉर्मेशन पे आपको जो भी चाहिए आप फर्दर ऑन ऐड कर सकते हैं. एंड आई एम डेफिनेटली श्योर that it will help you a lot in your exams. So let's start with Mahajanpadas. So Mahajanpadas, friends, क्या थे? They were the 16 kingdoms. 16 Mahajanpad थे which existed between 6th to 4th century BC. Okay. So after Indus Valley civilization, when the Vedic period came, and slowly the cities started to grow, the urbanization had increased, there had been significant improvements in the agriculture, and consequently the settlement sizes increases. So now originally the tribal settlements slowly started to consolidate within themselves and started to give way to the rise of these Mahajanpadas. Now all existed in the times prior to Buddha. So naturally we have seen first when Buddha came roughly 483 BC. So उसके पहले ये existence में आ चुके थे. Now I have briefly covered all these 16 Mahajanpadas. You have to just remember roughly where they were located, any important emperor if it is there, and capital is there. यही आता है एग्जाम के अंदर बस. तो Anga was there. Anga is the present day Odisha. Merchants sailed to Swarnabhumi, that is Myanmar. One and only one was captured by Bimbisar, and Brahmadatta was the last uh, Anga king. So the capital was Champa. Then Asmakas, not much about them. They were located in Andhra, Maharashtra, and Telangana. You can check the capitals online also. Avanti, it was one of the great monarchies. So four great monarchies in within these Mahajanpadas. There were four great monarchies, and they were called as uh, Kosla, Magad, Vats, and Avanti. So these were the four great monarchies. They were divided into north and south by Narmada. Ujjain, the present city of Ujjain, was their capital, and one Nandivardhana was later defeated by Shishunag. So Shishunag from Magad, and later it became a part of Magad Empire. Okay, so just a pointers to remember. Then we come across Chedi, which was another Mahajanpada. So it was located in Bundelkhand near the Kausambi and the mountains of the Nepal. Capital was Suktimati. Then Gandhar we all knows it. They have been figuring in Mahabharata also, and they were allied with Kurus. They were descendants of Yayati. Then river Indus provided them the water, so it allowed them to grow. Most important, Taxashila was the capital. It was also an important cultural hub and educational hub at that time. So it was the capital of Gandhars. Then Panini and Kautilya are the students of Taxashila University. Both are the great scholars. Kautilya, that is Chanakya, who gave us Arthashastra, and Panini was another great Sanskrit scholar. So you can find out more about them also. So they were students of this university. Kamboja, Cyrus I, I purposely mentioned it, one of the Greek emperor. He had invaded Kamboja and they were located on either side of Hindu Kush mountains. So just across the western side, Hindu Kush mountains के दोनों side पे ये located थे. They were a republican constitution and they find a mention in Ashoka's edict. So one of the edict which has been carved out mentions about this empire. That is how Mahajanpada, that is how we got to know. Kasi, Varanasi was the capital. Lord Rama was in this dynasty, very important. Ayodhya was a part of it. King Prasenjit was a very famous ruler and his sister was married to Bimbisara. We'll see later on about Bimbisara and all. Then friends, Kuru Empire was there. It corresponds to Delhi and Meerut. Its capital was Indraprasth. Kauravas and Pandavas were part of this dynasty. You already know all of the Mahabharata history. So then we come across another dynasty which was Kosala. The capital city was Ayodhya. Ganga in the south, Gandak, the rivers which are there in the south, and there are Himalayas in the north, the geographical boundaries. Lord Rama was of this dynasty. The king Prasenjit was a famous ruler and sister was married to Bimbisara. Ultimately, it was merged into Magad. Now we come to very important Mahajanpad, that is Magad. Patliputra was the capital. It was located on the confluence of Ganga, Son and Bhadrak. First Buddhist council was held at Rajgriha. As I had indicated in the ancient history part 1 lecture that please find out more about the Buddhist councils. 4 Buddhist councils were held and 3 Jainist councils were held in the various days. कहाँ held हुए थे, किसके patronage में held हुए थे और उसमें क्या क्या हुआ था, ये important है. मैंने जानबूझ के इसलिए छोड़ा है ताकि you get into the habit of note making. Okay. Then what was the strategic importance? They had alluvial plains, they had copper rich areas. So naturally mines भी थे उनके पास alluvial plains भी थे. So they were naturally bound to become a very powerful empire. Then Malla, they were known as the Malakas. The capital was Kushinagar, which is modern day Gorakhpur. Pava is a city is very important in the Buddhist history as Gautam Buddha had his last meal there. He was taken ill at Pava and died at Kushinara, probably at the courtyard of one of the king of Malla Empire. So Kushinagar is hence a Buddhist pilgrimage center also. Okay. Then Matsya Empire, it is south of the Kurus, west of Yamuna, and northern banks of Chambal. Capital was Viratnagar, not much of political importance. Panchal was there, which is modern day Bardhan and Farokhabad. Capital was modern day Ramnagar, you can say. Most famous city was Kanauj. Sursena Empire, Mahajanpada, they roughly correspond to the bridge areas UP, Haryana, Rajasthan, Gwalior. The capital was Mathura, and Avantipura, king of Surasena, was among one of the main disciples of first disciples of Buddha. Then Vaji, they were in Mithila, Nepal, and parts of Bihar. Lichavis were also part of them. Capital was Vaisali, and last is Vatsa. They were the branch of Kurus. Capital city was Kausambi. It acted as an important entry points for the goods transfer from north, west, south. And Udaysena was a famous ruler. Queen Mrigvati was also one of the famous ruler and one of the earliest known women ruler. So maybe they may ask this question. Okay, so now we come to the part where major dynasty has been formed in the area of the Magad Mahajanpad. And in this, it is further got divided into 3 dynasties which have come one after the other and ruled the area which was controlled by the Magad Empire. These are Haryanka dynasty, Shishunaga dynasty and Nanda dynasty, and these are given in order. So first Haryankas came, then Nagas came, then Nandas came. So Haryanka was the third ruling dynasty of Magad. Pradyot and Bhadrat were the first 2 in the order. Bimbisara is considered as the main founder of this dynasty. Okay. Ajatashatru further killed his father and sat on the throne. He defeated the Lichavis. Then Shishunaga dynasty came after Nagdaska, last king of Haryanka, fell to a popular rebellion. Shishunaga was the minister to the king. Okay, and later on they were succeeded by the Nandas. Nanda dynasty overthrew Shishunaga dynasty and administration became more centralized during the time of the Nandas. Nandas were highly unpopular among the masses because they were levying excess taxation. They were considered low status by the birth, and they were generally indulging into misconducts. So they did not have a good public rapport. Nanda dynasty was then overthrown by Chandragupta Maurya with his mentor Chanakya. तो दूरदर्शन पे एक सीरीज भी आई थी चाणक्य कुछ साल पहले. आई थिंक इट इज अवेलेबल इन द यूट्यूब ऑल्सो. जस्ट हैव अ व्हेन फ्री टाइम इज देयर यू कैन वॉच दैट सीरीज. इट्स बीन beautifully shown that how Chandragupta Maurya and Chanakya overthrew the Nanda Empire. And also you will be able to visualize the society and the cities that existed during that time and how the things happened. Now, Mauryan Empire, the most important empire, it was founded by Chandragupta Maurya 322 BC and it existed till 185 BC. So roughly 180 साल तक Mauryan Empire वहाँ पे रहा. The last king was Bridhartha and he was killed by Pushyamitra Shunga. He was also one of the general in the courts of the Mauryas. Then the Mauryan Empire had expanded westwards. It had defeated Seleucus I, a Dionysius and founder of Seleucid Empire. So ये Seleucid Empire क्या था फ्रेंड्स कि जब अलेक्जेंडर चला गया था उसके बाद ये कई सारे अपने जनरल्स यहाँ पे छोड़ के गया था. इसी में से एक ये सेल्यूसियस वन भी था जो ग्रीक था और वो एक सेल्यूसिड एम्पायर उसने अपना बना के रखा था उस साइड में वेस्टर्न साइड में. बट इट ऑल्सो हैड सम टेरिटरीज ऑफ इंडिया इंक्लूडिंग पंजाब एंड सम provinces of western UP which the Mauryan empire was able to win from him. And the name Maurya surprisingly does not occur anywhere in the Ashokan Empire inscription, but it is believed that they had the peacock signs to them and hence they were considered as the Maurya unko naam gira. Then Megasthenes was one of an important Greek scholar and he wrote a book Indica giving accounts of India. Similarly, Damages came to the court of Bindusara and Dionysius to Asoka. So ये facts पूछे जा सकते हैं. So just remember that Megasthenes, Damages, Dionysius, these were the important Greek scholars who have visited, and whatever the treatises they have written, they give us a great insight of what might have existed at that time. Then Mudraksha by Vishaka Dutt was a play that narrates Chandragupta Maurya's ascendancy. Again, just a fact, it can again be asked. Chandragupta and Seleucus I Necator, they fought a battle amongst themselves where he was defeated and retreated to Afghanistan. Peace treaty was then entered between the two and Chandragupta got Kandahar in return of that and Balochistan and Kamboj. So important parts which they won. In return, Chandragupta Maurya gave him 500 elephants. Okay, which Seleucus needed to check his western front in decisive battle of Ispas. ये friends क्या हुआ था उस time पे कि Seleucus Nicator was already engaged into the battle with the western side of the Persia. So उसको आर्मी स्ट्रेंथन करने के लिए एलिफेंट्स की सख्त जरूरत थी because he was facing very powerful invasions from that side and this was one of the very decisive battle he had fought. So what happens is they enter into a matrimonial alliance. So the Chandragupta Maurya is married to Seleucus Nicator's daughter and in the return he gives him 500 elephants which strengthen his army. Chandragupta later on renounced his throne and followed the Jain teacher Bhadrabhu. So he finally traveled it is said that he traveled to Shravanbelgola where he took Samadhi. Bindusara then extended the empire to the south. He believed in Ajivika sect. We have already seen what Ajivika and their ideology is. Antiochus I was sent. Antiochus I was one of the emperor, and he had sent Demetrius I in his court as the ambassador. Okay, so this is just a fact he had visited during the time of Bindusara. Now, Emperor Ashoka, very important emperor, the one who unified all of the Indian subcontinent into one, we can say. So his era was 273 to 232 BC. He was a brilliant military commander and he crushed the revolts of Ujjain and Taxila. ये लॉन्ग टाइम उज्जैन और तक्षशिला ऑब्स्टेकल्स तैयार कर रहे थे for the Mauryans. So Ashoka was able to break that resistance. Kalinga was a significant war in life. You already know this fact. So that in the war of Kalinga, There was a large scale damage. Eventually, the Kalingas lost, but it also had significant loss of lives on both sides. And this event greatly moved Ashoka, after which he became a peace loving king. Then he expanded the missions in Asia and Europe. लायन कैपिटल जो हमारा प्रेजेंट ये है सिंबल ऑफ सत्यमेव जयते लायन कैपिटल was built at Sarnath at 250 BC. It was carved out of a single block of sandstone and secured by a metal dowel. So you can imagine the type of engineering which has gone friends during that time. Ashoka pillar is located at Vaisali. So this is another important fact. You can find out more about the Ashok pillar also. अभी फ्रेंड्स एक साइड पे जब ये मौर्यंस थे उसी साइड पे दूसरे साइड पे there were someones who were called as Indo-Scythians or the Sakas. So these Indo-Scythians, they were basically a nomadic group of the Iranian people of Scythian origins, and they were scattered everywhere. It was not just like they came here, but the ones who traveled down and traveled to southeastward sides, they were called as the Indo-Scythians. So their first ruler was Maus, or he can call as Moga, and later on these Indo-Scythians were subjugated by Kushanas and Indo-Parthians. और उनकी टाइमलाइन क्या है फ्रेंड्स 150 BC to 400 AD. The map is given here, you can see. So they had a considerable area under their control in one time. 150 BC से 400 AD तक. Okay, they settled in northwest India and tried to invade up till Malwa. So यहाँ तक वो आ गए थे मालवा तक. Where they were repelled by King Vikramaditya, who was there in here, this side. He was able to repel them. They conquered Mathura, where Mathura lion capital I've given here. It may hide behind my video. I'll share the PPT later on. तो ये देखिए फ्रेंड्स यहाँ पे थ्री लायन मथुरा लायन कैपिटल बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट ये piece of artifact. Okay, and it is seen as depicting queen of Saka king Rajuwala. So one of the important king of Saka was Rajuwala and queen Nadasi Kasa. So it is said that she has been depicted on this description, and it also highlights three Ratna symbol of Buddhism, Buddha Dhamma Sangha, which are the three Ratnas of Buddhism. It is said that this also indicates the three Ratna symbol of Buddhism. Then Indo-Parthians, nothing much we can say. Once the Indo-Sakas were subjugated, then they started to exercise their control, and they existed from 19th century Common Era to 226. It was founded by Gondophares. He was an important king, and it was an empire of loose framework. That is, small dynasties maintained their independence in exchange of Gondophares. City of Taxila was the capital. फ्रेंड्स यहाँ क्या हो गया था इंडो पार्थियंस वर नेवर एम्पायर इन ट्रू सेंस इन्होंने छोटे छोटे चीफ्स और छोटे छोटे एम्पायर जो थे अब बोलने के लिए तो इन्होंने बोल दिया कि ये सारा एरिया हमारा है क्योंकि इनको यहाँ से बाउंटी आती थी या ये इनको एलिजेंस वो करते थे मगर अपने आप में ये सब रूलर्स इंडिपेंडेंट ही थे सो इंडो पार्थियंस वाज नेवर अ कंसोलिडेटेड एम्पायर ऑफ एज सच ओके इट एग्जिस्टेड एज अ लूज फ्रेमवर्क Then the came one of the very important empires which was called as Kushanas. ये भी इसी इसमें rise हुए and you can see the territory. They have a huge territorial extents. So they existed from 70 common era to 200 common era. Now many common eras, friends, यहाँ से आगे overlap होने वाले. You just need to remember. I have tried to put it in chronology. Okay. तो इंडो साकाज आए इंडो साकाज के बाद में इंडो पार्थियंस आए पार्थियंस के बाद में कुशानाज आए Okay, they originated from UAZ tribes. They were great patrons of Buddhism. They controlled the Silk Road and thus they were a very, very important point between China and the Western civilizations. Now, one of their main king and important king was Kanishka. Okay, so just remember his name, Kanishka. And very important fact that fourth Buddhist council was held in Kashmir during his reign. Okay, so all the scholars had gathered that time and it was held in Kashmir. And Kushanas were the driving forces of Greco-Buddhist art. Now find out more about this. Friends, Greco-Buddhist art resulted from the confluence of the elements of the Greek architecture and the Buddhist architecture which was existing during that time. So you can just find out more and prepare one or two pages which will be useful for your arts and culture also. Then friends, when this was all happening in the north, an important dynasty had by that time emerged into the south. And this was called as the Satwan dynasty. So they ruled from roughly 2 BC to 3rd century Common Era. Okay, so roughly you can say 4 to 500 years they ruled. They were based in Deccan region. Simuka was the first king who had founded. He was succeeded by Kana, who further expanded the empire. Now, most important king was Gautami Putra Satkarni. Okay, and he defeated Vikramaditya of Ujjain, who was a very, very powerful king. So, Gautami Putra Satkarni managed to defeat him. He patronized Brahmins instead of Buddhists, so the he was more he bent or you can say more influenced by the Hinduism. However, Satkarni too captured Sanchi, so he was later on Satkarni too came and he greatly contributed to the embellishment of Buddhist stupa. Okay, so this was again one of his artists. Here I have given this the Sanchi Buddhist stupa. This also, so this actually has a very good embellishment and inscription, and this artist Ananda, he has carved the details on it where Satkarnis are mentioned. So that is why how we came to know from this. Okay, this picture you will see in NCERT also. Now Rudradaman was one of the ruler of Saka dynasty in western Kshatraps, who married his daughter to Vashishtaputra Satkarni. Very important fact. So Rudradaman's daughter was there, and वेस्टर्न शत्रप्स बेसिकली फ्रेंड्स ये शत्रप्स क्या थे कि ये इसी टाइम पे एग्जिस्ट कर रहे थे जब यहाँ पे छोटे छोटे जो ग्रीक लॉर्ड्स थे फ्यूडल लॉर्ड्स की तरह वो अपने आप को क्षत्रप कहलाते थे ओके सो Rudradaman had defeated Satavahanas many times and thereby possibly weakened them. So these Western Kshatraps normally they existed in the area of Gujarat and Rajasthan. और इन्होंने कंसिस्टेंटली सातवांस के साथ इनका वॉरफेयर रहा क्योंकि बाय दैट टाइम सातवांस हैव कैप्चर्ड मालवा तो इसके वजह से द एम्पायर ऑफ सातवांस गॉट वीकेंड आउट Okay, then another later on, moving ahead, we can see that as the Satavahanas started to lose their uh, control, another important dynasty which appeared in the central India was Vakataka Dynasty. So they roughly occurred with 250 to 500 Common Era, and they were a very important successors of Satvans and were followed by the Chalukyas. Okay, Parvasena I was an important ruler who expanded the empire. Now, very important fact, friends, Ajanta caves were built during the times of Harisena. Harisena was one of the emperor of Vakataka dynasty. It's a today a unique UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it was discovered by John Smith, who was a Britisher. He was on the tiger hunting mission. Its painting has narrations of Jataka tales. Okay, they consist of Chaityas and Viharas. So Chaityas are monasteries and Viharas are the pre-halls where they pray during the daytimes. Okay. तो फ्रेंड्स ये अजंता के बारे में आप और भी पता कीजिए फैक्ट्स इट हैज इट very important place in the history because we are able to understand what type of architecture and what type of paintings existed during that time. Okay, and the Jatika tales are really one to witness. I have been there, so if you anytime if you guys get time, surely do visit it. The Jataka tales elaborate all the life cycles of Buddha, and they have been painted with a very high degree of engineering. The paintings are in fact even 3D paintings. Okay, just to mention the facts. Then friends, we come to one of the most important dynasty of Deccan area, which is Chalukya Dynasty. इनका बहुत ज़्यादा कंट्रीब्यूशन है फ्रेंड्स, इसमें से आर्ट एंड कल्चर के लिए भी चालुक्यास बहुत ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है. सो वाकाटाकास के बाद में चालुक्यास आए एंड चालुक्यास एग्जिस्टेड फ्रॉम रफली 550 टू 750, आप ध्यान में रख सकते हैं. दे रूल्ड डेक्कन फॉर ओवर 600 and they were actually three dynasties. One were in Badami, one were in Vengi. Vengi इधर है ईस्टर्न साइड पे, यहाँ बदामी है जो उनका मेन हफ्ता वो बदामी था, and one is Kalyani to the again northern part. So they were established by Pulakeshin I. They had stopped march of King Harshvardhana southward. उस टाइम पे हर्षवर्धना king had occupied all this area in the central India, but to the south he cannot go because of the Chalukya resistance. You can find more about King Harshvardhana also. They were at battles with Pallavas. So Pallava dynasty it existed this side. Okay. And Vikramaditya and Nandivarman too were one of the most important kings. Now, friends, Western Chalukya and Eastern Chalukyas, they were basically divided into two types of within themselves. So Western Chalukyas were instrumental in developing Kannada literature, whereas Telugu literature owes its importance to Eastern Chalukyas of Vengi, this side, as I told. So within themselves, they were divided into two groups, Eastern and Western. They were remarkable in the area of architecture and built thousands of temples of sandstones. So that's what I was saying there. You have to remember it from the point of art and culture. Chalukyas are very important. Temples were excavations from local standing rocks. They were not built as their structural counterparts were, rather created by a special technique known as subscription and are basically sculptural. So basically subscription में क्या होता है कि the rocks which are there, the redstone rocks, उसको वहीं से excessive carving उसकी निकालते जाते हैं in order to give it a final touch. So you can understand that there is no scope of error. अगर कोई भी चीज मैं गलत तरीके से subtraction technique में करता हूँ, there is no possibility of reversing it. That's why it requires a very high amount of precision, unlike the techniques which were existed during that time, the other ones. Now most temples are concentrated in Aihole, important friends, very important. Aihole, Badami, Patadakkal and Mahakuta. These are the sites in Karnataka, and they are having the Chalukya Dynasty temple standing yet, and they are very important. Okay, very important again. Bhutnath Temple, Ladkhan Temple, Papnath Temple were some of the very remarkable works. Please find out more about these temples. I have mentioned the locations and the temples. You can find out more about this as well as the art and architecture as to how they have done, what were their typical or salient features. Okay. Then we come to the other dynasty, which is called as Pallava Dynasty. So roughly they also existed during the Chalukya's time, and they were existed between 275 to 897 CE. तो ये भी करीबन around 600 years they have ruled. So they arose after the downfall of Satwan. So once Satwan started to weaken, as we have seen that Vakatakas rose in the central part of India, at the same time we can say that in the southeastern part of India, the Pallavas had rose. The symbol was red flag and the capital was Kanchipuram. Mahendravarman I and Narasimhavarman I, these were the prominent kings. Okay, so they expanded and captured many areas in order to establish Pallava dynasty. Then they were in constant conflict with Chalukyas and Cholas in the south. So by that time, again a new dynasty had taken place in south. So they were called as Cholas. In fact, Cholas were existing all throughout, but as the Pallavas increased their influence, so they came in conflict with Cholas as well as the Chalukyas. They highly patronized Hindu temple architecture. Now, one of the very important is Shore Temple. I have been here. Shore Temple is very famous UNESCO site in Mallapuram. So you can find out more about in Google. So it was built during the Pallava dynasty. Then one of the Chinese traveler, Xuanzang, he visited during Pallava tenure. Again, a very important fact. So now there was again a transition from rock cut temples to stone temple architecture. So stone temple architecture में क्या होता था कि basically see earlier there was, as we had seen in the subtraction techniques or other techniques, whatever rocks are there they are themselves cutted into temples. Okay, but यहाँ पे stone temple architecture में stones are carefully arranged in a manner, okay, so as to lead to a formation of a temple hall. So you can again find out more in, and it will also be very important for you from the perspective of arts and culture. Kalisanta temple in Kanchipuram, Koneswaram, Tondeswaram are famous and developed in about 7th century AD. Very famous temples, friends, and very important also. All these Koneswaram, Tondeswaram, please find out more about them. Now we come to a very important empire of ancient India, and that is called as Gupta Empire. As you can see from the map itself that they almost existed throughout the Indian subcontinent, barring the Chalukyan territory. They have almost captured all of the India. Okay, so they existed between 5th to 6th century, and this period, friends, is considered as the golden age by the historians. Golden age in the ancient history. Now, important kings in this were Chandragupta I, Samudragupta, Chandragupta II, and Skandagupta. These are four important kings. There were many kings, but These are the significant ones. They had a great development in the field of arts. फ्रेंड्स देखो आर्ट्स हमेशा ध्यान में रखिए तभी डेवलप हुआ जब वॉर्स कम हुए. सो वेन एवर द पीरियड ऑफ स्टेबिलिटी लाइक मौर्यन एम्पायर और गुप्ता एम्पायर केम और द चालुक्यन एम्पायर केम, so it naturally created a scope to develop the arts, क्योंकि तभी तो ध्यान देंगे आर्ट्स की तरफ अगर वहां पे पीस एग्जिस्ट करता है. अदरवाइज इफ द नेशंस आर वॉरिंग, naturally there is a loss of life, there is a loss of resources. So these people were never going to get patronage from the kings or the grants which they used to get or the financial assistance they used to get. Plus the other scholars artists can also not flourish. So as we can see during Gupta Empire, a period of stability after a long warring sessions of almost from the decline of the Mauryan Empire in 183 BC. From there on continuously we'll see another 3 to 400 years continuous warring and raiding by Indo Parthians, by Sakas, by Kshatraps was going on. So there was no political stability, which now came with the advent of Gupta Empire. And there was great development in the field of arts. So notable scholars, very important, Kalidasa, Aryabhatta, Varam Hira, Vatsayana, which existed during this time. Okay. Now these Lichavis were also one of the kingdom, and they were in always into battles with the Gupta. So Chandragupta one married Lichavi princess, which helped him to expand. Naturally, when there was a matrimonial alliance, the Lichavis then supported Chandragupta one. He was succeeded by his son Samudragupta. Harisena, Sanskrit poet, was there and he was a courtier of Samudragupta. So ये important है. Harisena was one of a very very important Sanskrit poet. He wrote heroic stories about Samudragupta which are there in the Allahabad pillar inscription. Again, very important fact. Okay. Samudragupta was succeeded by Chandragupta II, who later on married Naga queen, and one of the Naga tribe queen was there. And their daughter Prabhavati Gupta was married to Rudrasen II of Vakataka. So this Vakataka which existed in the central this. So naturally they formed a matrimonial alliance with the Vakatakas. And his son was married to a Kadamba princess. तो कदम्बाज यहाँ पे गोवा और कर्नाटक के साइड में एग्जिस्ट करते थे. तो इन्होंने क्या किया, एक का जो मैरिज है डॉटर का उनका वाकाटाका के साथ कराया और सन का जो मैरिज है वो कदम्बा के साथ कराया. सो दीज मैट्रिमोनियल अलायंसेस फ्रेंड्स नेचुरली दे हेल्प देम टू गेन strategic upper hold. Then he also defeated Sakas in the west, including Rudrasuma. The famous poet Kalidasa was amongst the 9 jewel in his court. So very very important facts, friends. Then Fa Hien, one of a very very famous Chinese scholar, he visited at the time of Chandragupta II. ये ध्यान में रखिए. Okay, Chandragupta I was later succeeded by Kumar Gupta I, and Nalanda was built during his time. Very important fact. Nalanda famous Nalanda University इनके टाइम पे बनी. Skandagupta I succeeded Kumar Gupta I. So after Kumar Gupta, Skandagupta came and fought against Kidrites. Kidrites were basically white Huns from Central Asia, and he won the war against them. However, the resources were greatly drained, and after his death, the decline of the empire began. Okay. ये दोनों इंपॉर्टेंट थे, तोरमाना एंड मीरकुला. ये इन्होंने मीरकुला ने जो इन्वेजन किया था उसमें काफी नुकसान हुआ था गुप्ता एम्पायर का. एंड आफ्टर दैट द एम्पायर स्लोली स्टार्टेड टू began its decline. King Yashodharman from Malwa grew very powerful in this time. So one of a king, this Yashodharman, he grew very very powerful and he started to exercise his influence. In fact, Guptas became so much dependent on him कि उनके यशोधर्मन के बिना they were practically reduced or wiped out from that area. So Indo-Roman trade which profited Guptas was also naturally when Huns came, तो जो गुप्तास के ट्रेड रूट्स थे वो ब्लॉक हो गए और उसके वजह से जो उनका जो वहां से ट्रेड था वो अफेक्ट हुआ, which led to the draining of the resources, and the competition from Vakatakas had also increased by this time. So all these factors contributed to decline of Gupta Empire. Now we will see, friends, another important as now Gupta Empire has started to weaken. So you can see we come ahead in the timeline 730 से लेके तो 1036 कॉमन एरा तक. ओके, तो गुप्ता एम्पायर सिग्निफिकेंटली ऑलमोस्ट राउट आउट हो चुका है और उसी के जगह पे एक नई डायनेस्टी आई है जिसको गुर्जर प्रतिहारास कहते थे. ओके, So Nagbhat I, he was an important king. He defeated the Arabs, and from there it started, and they ruled almost all of the North India. Then Mihir Bhoj, very important. This is the important king of Gurjara Parthiharas, and Mahendrapal I. Under their ruling, this Gurjara Parthiharas, they reached to a point of peak of the power. They ruled Kanauj and Ujjain. ठीक है, ये दिख रहा है आपको, यहाँ से पूरा एरिया इन्हीं का है, कनौज उज्जैन. So they defeated Palas in the east. Palas existed here this time, and Rashtrakutas in the south. So Rashtrakutas को भी इन्होंने successfully check किया. Then Vatsaraja defeated Pala king Dharmapal. Mihir Bhoj I destroyed Gujarat Rashtrakutas here and captured the Pala territory in the east as far as Gorakhpur. Now, world famous UNESCO Khajuraho site was developed during their reign. This is an important fact. Okay. नाउ फ्रेंड्स, ये बहुत ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है ये वाला पार्ट आर्ट्स एंड कल्चर के लिए. बरौली टेम्पल कॉम्प्लेक्स विच इज लोकेटेड इन राजस्थान, भातेश्वर टेम्पल्स इन मध्य प्रदेश, ओजियान जैन टेम्पल in Rajasthan were built during that times. Please find out more about this. Okay, and remember that they were built under the patronage of Gurjar Parthiharas. Their chief contribution was slowing down the Arab raids from the west, Arab raids from the western part. So फ्रेंड्स रिमेंबर कि अरब्स जो थे वो बहुत ज़्यादा स्पीड से आ रहे थे फ्रॉम द वेस्टर्न साइड. इनफैक्ट दे प्रैक्टिकली केम अनचेक्ड अप टिल अफगानिस्तान. और जिस स्पीड से वो आए थे, बिकॉज दे स्टार्टेड फ्रॉम द मक्का मदीना, दे एक्सपांडेड, गॉट कंट्रोल ऑफ अरब पेनिजुला, देन दे एंटर्ड सीरिया, लेबनान, वहीं से होते होते आगे दे कैप्चर्ड पर्शिया. इनफैक्ट पर्शियन एम्पायर को बहुत जल्दी उन्होंने अपने कंट्रोल में ले लिया. एंड देयर मार्च अगेन स्टार्टेड टुवर्ड्स द हिंदू कुश माउंटेन्स. नाउ Gurjar Parthiharas played an important role. So when these Arab raids were happening into the Indian subcontinent, that time they may not be able to stop it, but they did significantly slowed it down. Okay. Then Pala Empire we had just seen. They existed between 750 to 1161, but last के 60-70 years they were just existing, not really as an empire but just like a controlled area, because as we had seen in the previous slide, they were highly weakened by the war. So they were founded by Gopala, धर्मपाल, देवपाल, महिपाल expanded the empire. ज़्यादा कुछ है नहीं पाला डायनेस्टी में फ्रेंड्स, इतना ही है. ये तीन इंपॉर्टेंट किंग्स हैं इनके. धर्मपाल देवपाल ने एम्पायर को एक्सपांड किया, फिर ब्रीफ पीरियड के लिए इनका डाउनफॉल हुआ. महिपाल वन ट्राइड टू रिवाइव इट. Okay, this is the only story. Atis Dipankar, a Buddhist scholar, was there in the Tibet, which helped Dharmapal exert culture. They were Buddhist. The Palas were Buddhist India orientation, and Atis Dipankar was one of a Buddhist scholar. तो इसने धर्मपाला को हेल्प किया, क्योंकि ये कल्चरल इन्फ्लुएंस जो थे ये, सी इफ यू आर नॉट एबल टू जोग्राफिकली कॉन्कर अ टेरिटरी, मे बी यू कैन कॉन्कर द टेरिटरी कल्चरली, so that automatically they support you and become part of you. This is a strategy the Palas, because as you can see this is all a mountainous tract, so the such scholars help them to propagate the Buddhist thoughts there, so they could be remain ensure loyalties amongst the masses there. They enjoyed relations with Srivijaya Empire. This was in Swarnabhumi or Myanmar. Then Tibetan Empire and the Abbasid Caliphate. So even Abbasid Caliphate के साथ इनका trading उस time पे चलता था. Islam first came in Bengal during that time. Very very important facts friends. During this time Islam first time came into the Bengal. Then Sompura Mahavira is one of the finest architecture which is currently located in Bangladesh. It has a great monastery which became a hub of learning. ये आज अभी तक प्रिजर्व है फ्रेंड्स, सोमपुरा महावीरा. यहाँ पे एक इम्पोर्टेंट इन्होंने मॉन्स्टरी बनाई थी पालास में. सो यू कैन जस्ट रिमेंबर दिस फैक्ट. नाउ अगेन राष्ट्रकूटास. सो क्या क्या चेंजेस हुए फ्रेंड्स, अगेन टू जस्ट रिकॉल यू फ्रॉम द प्रीवियस स्लाइड्स. यस, तो पहले चालुक्यास के बाद में अभी हम लोग आ चुके हैं वाकाटाकास, चालुक्यास, राष्ट्रकूटास. ओके, तो राष्ट्रकूटास जो है वो 753 BC टू 982 753 कॉमन एरा टू 982 तक रहे. Danti Durga founded this dynasty. Okay, he was one of the vassals of Chalukyas. Then Govinda III expanded the empire and defeated Nagbhat. Nagbhat one we had just seen in the previous slide, Gurjar Parthiharas. So these three dynasties they were clashing with each other. Gurjar Parthiharas, उसके बाद में नॉर्थ में साउथ में राष्ट्रकूटास एंड ईस्टर्न साइड पे पालास, इनका आपसी में कंटिन्यू भिड़त शुरू था. Then Amogvarsh I, the most important king of Rashtrakuta dynasty. He was the son of Govinda III. The capital was here, Manyakheta, which is located in Karnataka. He defeated the Eastern Chalukyas. Okay, तो यहाँ पे जो थे वेंगी का पार्ट जो था, ये ईस्टर्न चालुक्यास का पार्ट, इनको उसने डिफीट किया था. एंड ही ऑल्सो मेंटेन फ्रेंडली रिलेशंस विद डायनेस्टीज फ्रॉम गैंजेस. तो यहाँ पे जो छोटे छोटे डायनेस्टीज उस टाइम पे एग्जिस्ट कर रही थी, उनके साथ अमोघ वर्ष ने फ्रेंडली रिलेशंस डेवलप करना शुरू किया. ही वॉज अ स्कॉलर ऑफ कन्नड़ एंड संस्कृत एंड हिज वर्क कविराज मार्ग एंड प्रश्नोत्तर रत्नमालिका आर नोटेबल. तो ये दोनों वर्क्स ध्यान में रखिए फ्रेंड्स. ये एक कन्नड़ में इन्होंने लिखा था कविराज मार्ग, और एक जो था ये प्रश्नोत्तर रत्नमालिका जो है ये संस्कृत में लिखा गया था उस टाइम पे. दीज आर वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. And because of his love and literature and peaceful reign, he is also called as Ashoka of the South. So, उनको अमोघ वर्ष वन is also called as Ashoka of the South. UPSC may ask this question. They were later attacked by Parmaras, one of the Rajput clan of Malwa, who plundered Manyakheta and eventually led to the declines. Okay, so बाद में यहाँ पे इस टाइम पे परमाराज आ गए थे यहाँ पे पूरे एरिया में. They attacked and looted the Manyakheta. राष्ट्रकूटा इकोनॉमी वॉज सस्टेन बाय एग्रीकल्चर एंड नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज. अभी फ्रेंड्स ये देखिए इनका कि क्या क्या उस टाइम पे ट्रेडिंग चल रहा था. सो वी कैन अंडरस्टैंड द एक्सटेंट ऑफ देयर इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटीज. सो कॉटन फ्रॉम डेक्कन, बीटल लीफ कोकोनट राइस फ्रॉम कोकन, मुस्लिन फ्रॉम पैटर्न एंड वारंगल, सैंडल टीक टिम्बर फ्रॉम मैसूर, डायमंड्स फ्रॉम कडप्पा, Golconda, Kurnool, Bellary, leather from Gujarat. All these items were exported. Okay, they controlled most of the sea route and westward trade. So ये इनके लिए बहुत advantage था because they were able to have access to sea routes and westward trade. Then major imports were pearls, gold, wine, dates from Africa, and slaves, human slaves, that is leads and topaz. तो इनको लाया करते. ये slaves में they had a great liking for the artist slaves. So ये इनको court में use करते थे. Then Arabs used to trade the horses with them. So Arabs had a great control over the trading of the horses. They had leaning towards Jain religion. Amok Varsha was the follower of Jain monk Jinasena. They also patronized Hinduism. Islam conquest began in about 7th century. So now the Islam conquest had already begun and Muslims had started to settle. In fact, जो बाद में sea route के through Muslims आए, they started to settle. They married the local women. That is on the coastal sides of the Kerala's. उनको फिर बाद में आगे मोपलास बोला. सो मोपल्या रेबिलियन वी विल सी इन द मॉडर्न हिस्ट्री. सो दिस इज हाउ इट स्टार्टेड. Then these are some of the very very important scholars. Asaga Mahaviracharya, who was the mathematician, Adikavi Pampa, and Sri Ponna, a famous Kannada poet. Okay, Adivaki Pampa is very very famous because he wrote the Adi Purana of Jainism, which is a very very important literary text. Okay, so ये सब important है friends राष्ट्रकूटा से. फिर further friends, they all again a very important point from the view of arts, that rock cut temples of Ellora and Elephanta. Okay, so you can find out more about this. I have given here the photo of Kailash temple, famous photo rock cut temple का. So यहाँ पे ये सब develop हुआ इनके time पे. And monolithic Kailasnath temple from Ellora is very famous, which I have given. So monolithic इसलिए because it is carved out of a single rock. Then Kashi Vishwanath temple and Jain temple at Patadakkal, here I have given in the photo, are the famous UNESCO heritage sites in Karnataka. Very very important. See how beautiful friends this temple is. Okay, the arrangement of the pillars, hall, how it is systematically arranged, and there is a hall and then access to the main temple. Other famous temples are Trikuteshwara at Gadag, Someshwara Jain temple, Navlinga temple at Kuknur, etc. So please find out more about these temples. It is very very important friends. Then let's come to the southern dynasties. Okay, so we have Pandyas who were practically existing through the southeastern coast, entire this territory. Although, friends, now you should understand that there were three great dynasties of the Tamilakam, which I have mentioned here, the Cholas and the Cheras. अब ये तीनों डायनेस्टीज मोर और लेस सेम टाइम पे एग्जिस्ट करती थी. कोई कहता है कि पांड्या, even their origins are not clear because they can be regarded as much more ancient than whatever records are available, but roughly what has been accepted timeline is the important period where they were able to exert a significant influence. So this period for the Pandyas remains 1200 BCE से लेके तो 1300 कॉमन एरा. तो आप लगा सकते फ्रेंड्स अंदाजा कि 1500 years they exerted control over this area. This was the area, Madurai and this one. ये चोलास का था. Cholas later came in this with Thanjavur as the capital, and here it was Cheras, and they were constant in struggle with each other, as well as the other Chalukyan empire. So amongst these three kingdoms, other being Cholas and Cheras, the emblem was fish, ये कई बार पूछते हैं, and the capital was Madurai. Legendary Sangamas were held in Madurai under their patronage. These were the literary meetings. We will see further what was the Sangam literature. Then Marvarman I Sundara and Jatvarman Sundara I are the most important kings of Pandyas. And Chola invasions later weakened their control. Aditya I, Rajraja I attacked Pandyan territory in various times. These are two they were very powerful kings of Cholan Empire, Aditya I and Rajraja I. तो इन्होंने पांड्यन टेरिटरी पे कई बार हमला किया जिसकी वजह से इनका सिग्निफिकेंटली इन्फ्लुएंस कम हो गया. Then later empire also faced internal issues between warring princes. तो within Pandyan Empire सी दो warring princes थे, पराक्रमा एंड कुलशेखरा. तो इनके बीच में वॉर हो गया तो इंटरनल क्राइसिस हैपेंड. तो कुछ एम्पायर्स पराक्रमा के पीछे खड़े रहे, कुछ एम्पायर्स कुलशेखरा के पीछे खड़े रहे. Now friends, very important, early Tamil literature which is also called as Sangam literature. Okay, so Pandyas naturally they celebrated Tamil poetry and hence they greatly patronized the literature. Now Sangam literature was composed by more than 450 poets, roughly I think some 490 poets के around, इसमें 500 poets के around poets थे, and at least we know that 27 poets were women. There may be more, but this is the least we are knowing. Then these poets also came from various backgrounds. Some were royal family, some were merchants, and some were even ordinary farmers. It is broadly classified into Akam and Puram. Akam is inner, Puram is outer. So Akam is based on the emotions like love, union, etc. And Puram is based about the exploits, heroic deeds in the context of wars. And if we divide the subject matter of Sangam literature, roughly you can say that 3/4 is Akam and 1/4 is Puram. Okay, yeah, approximate. Then Sangam literature is first. Now I've given this ट्री डायग्राम कि एंटायर संगम लिटरेचर को किस तरीके से हम सेग्रीगेट कर सकते हैं. सो फर्स्ट इज पतिनन मिल कनकु which is 18 greater texts. Okay, so these 18 greater texts is then further divided into Ethitogai which is 8 anthologies जिसमें फ्रेंड्स मोर देन 2500 poems है जो ranges from few stanzas to even like 40 lines. And Pattu are 10 idyls. So these are longer poems. एक poem 600 to 800 lines की. Friends, ये important क्यों है? Because they were written in that time's era, in that time's settings. Some may be describing about mountains, farms, schools, cities, and the emotions or the events which have been conveyed in that give us a very rich picture about what must have been existent during time. That's why it's very extremely important. This is how you have to remember it. ये आप चीज इस डायग्राम को ध्यान में रखिए. 18 great text, उसके बाद 8 anthologies और 10 idols. Okay. Then friends, the three assemblies जो मैंने कहा कि संगम लिटरेचर में 3 assemblies हुए थे, उसमें क्या क्या हुआ था, इसी के अराउंड और आधार पे सब संगम लिटरेचर डेवलप हुआ है. सो फर्स्ट असेंबली इट इज सेड दैट इट वाज अटेंडेड बाय द गॉड्स देमसेल्व्स, दैट इज शिवा, Sun Murugan, Kubera, these are the gods, and one Rigvedic Rishi was their poet who was called as Agastya. Okay, he is also called as father of Tamil literature. So he uh, was the part of this first assembly. This was washed off in flood, so no records of first assemblies are available with us. Okay, so then came second assembly. So second assembly was held in Kapatpuram, which is on the eastern side, eastern coast of India, and it was chaired by Agastya. अब फ्रेंड्स इसमें दो चीजें ध्यान में रखिए आप, एक अकटियम एंड टोल टोलकपियम. ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है फ्रेंड्स, ये टोलकपियम. ओके, बिकॉज दिस इज द ओनली वन विच इज अवेलेबल विथ अस नाउ. Akatiyam is not available. Earlier books of Tamil grammar, they are believed to be taught to only 12 students, but again there is no record available. And Tolkappiyam जो है इसके अंदर भी तीन बुक्स है which I have given down, Elutarticum, then Solatikaram and then Porulutikaram. तो ये एक साउंड, एक वर्ड, एक सब्जेक्ट मैटर, ये तीनों है, ये मैंने दिए हुए हैं. ये इसका फर्दर बाइफर्केशन है. ओके, सो टोलकपियम का आप ध्यान में रखिए फ्रेंड्स, बिकॉज it was the only surviving text from second assembly. Then came friends later on third assembly, and these are largely available and well preserved. So these has, as we can say, that 449 poets, they worked for 1850 years. Of course the period is debated, so don't, but just remember that many poets were part of it, and then they further, the records are also well preserved, so we are able to create this. Now friends, after this came another great dynasties, which is called as the Chola dynasty. So the period which they are having is early. Of course they were existing beforehand also, but as we see their territorial conquest, you can assume that they existed from 848 to 1279. Vijayalaya was the founder of Imperial Cholas. Now, why they are called Imperial Cholas? Because they were able to, exert their influence in many sea areas as well. We'll see in the next slide where I've given a map till almost Sri Lanka they had reached. Symbol was tiger. Then Thanjavur was the capital city. And Aditya I defeated Pandyas and Pallavas. We had already seen this fact. He was a very important king. Then Parnataka I, his son, he captured Sri Lanka. So even Sri Lanka was captured. Rajaraja Chola I was the greatest ruler among them. Okay, he expanded northwest. He had marched against the Palas there. He built Gongaikonda Cholapuram to commemorate his victories in northern India. He expanded to Malaysia and had a good control over the administration. He was a very, very celebrated king, okay, in the Chola dynasty, and a very important king. He captured Odisha and marched towards Pala dynasty. He also successfully invaded Sri Vijaya kingdom of Southeast Asia, an important fact friends. They also fought many wars with Chalukyas and successfully defeated in many wars. Hoysalas took advantage of internal wars amongst these kingdoms. So basically friends, क्या हुआ था कि another after this Rashtrakutas and Chalukyas, one more important dynasty came in the parts of Karnataka who were called as Hoysalas. They were the major dynasty. उन्होंने क्या किया कि उन्होंने देखा ऑलरेडी पांड्याज और चोलास के बीच में कांस्टेंट स्ट्रगल शुरू है, सो दे टूक एडवांटेज ऑफ इट. सो समटाइम्स दे यूज्ड टू साइड चोलास, एलाई विद चोलास, समटाइम्स दे यूज्ड टू साइड विद पांड्यास. एंड इसके वजह से क्या हो गया कि दे यूज्ड टू एंश्योर दैट उन वो कभी फुल पोटेंशियल में वो राइज ना हो सके, सो एज टू बिकम थ्रेट टू देमसेल्व्स. ओके, further, but ultimately the Pandyas were able to steadily gain control and routed both Cholas as well as Hoysalas. Okay, so eventually we can see that Pandyas ने धीरे धीरे करके कंट्रोल ले लिया Cholas का. In fact, Pandyas had also become weak and the Islamic conquest had reached south, towards the south by that end time. So in fact, I think by 1300 even they were routed out. But amongst this struggle, briefly for a period of 25 to 30 years, they were able to regain the controls. Then Kaveripatnam was one of the major port cities and Romans used to come to trade with it. Okay, so you can see Nagapatnam, Rajrata. Rajrata was a Sri Lankan empire. You can see how entire till here Malaysia, Indonesia, the control has been exerted, and even this part, whole part of Pala Empire, they have taken. And Dravidian architecture reached to the great heights. Okay, so very, very important, friends. These temples, Bridishwara, Gangaikonda Cholpuram, Airateswara temple, they were declared as UNESCO World Heritage Site. Please find out more about them. Okay, and some of the notable poets, Jem Kundar, Otakutan, Tirukativar, Buddhamitra, he was also one of the poet who existed during Chola reign, basically grammar poet. So friends, these are some of the facts which concern with the Cholas. And now two dynasties I have not been able to cover in this. You can just add a few slides of those, and this PPT is all ready for you. One is Cheras. So Cheras कहाँ exist करते थे? वो eastern part में करते थे, and Hoysalas. Okay. So please find out more about them, Hoysalas and Cheras. And I think almost all the major dynasties you have covered. Then there are many small dynasties like Kadapa, then Parmars and all those. So you can, as and when you can time, just keep on updating. But these are the timelines and dynasties you first have to remember. अगर आप इसको बार बार रिवाइज करोगे, बार बार पढ़ोगे, तो आपके दिमाग में एटलीस्ट ये फैक्ट्स फिट हो जाएंगे, और इसके बाद फिर आप एक एक चीजों को कंपार्टमेंटलाइज करते जाइए जैसे जैसे आपकी प्री पास आती है. ओके, मे बी यू कैन कीप एडिंग फैक्ट्स एज यू रीड एनसीईआरटी और अदर क्लासेस नोट्स into this and keep on revising it. Okay friends, so on this note I think we have covered almost all ancient India, starting from the Harappans to the end of the Chola Empire, and we have now come to roughly 1300 Common Era. Islamic conquest invasions have already begun, which formed the part of the medieval India. Now the next phase of the history is rise of the Sultanates, and after that we will see the rise of the Mughals. But यहाँ पे आने तक कई सारे facts है, क्योंकि the timeline was very very long and I have almost covered it in 2 hours, you can say. So I hope that this fast runner presentation will at least clear your basics. And further friends, keep enhancing this, keep studying, keep revising. As I said, history is a subject जिसको आप जितना बार बार revise करेंगे, it will help you to hit the questions in the pre and the mains. And it is difficult, other than the history optional people, it is of course difficult for all any other students. But if you prepare it meticulously with the timeline and revising this on a piece of paper again and again, it will automatically start fitting in your brain. Okay friends, so I wish you all the best, and let us meet in the next video. Bye.